The line 6 in human design is the role model, the observer, and you have 3 life phases. Line 6 is often called the role model. It's the line of perspective, maturation, and embodied wisdom. And here's the first thing to understand. Line 6 is not an instant wisdom. Line 6 is earned wisdom. So it becomes what it is through time, experience, and a very specific developmental process. The core themes of a line 6 is that it carries an objective quality. It tends to observe life with a bit of a distance, not because it doesn't care, but because it's built to see patterns, notice what can't be trusted, and understand what actually holds up over time. So line 6 energy often feels like I'm watching, I'm learning, I'm not committing until this is real. So this is why line 6 can come across as a little aloof sometimes. It's not necessarily trying to be distant, but it's often just calibrating. The 3 life phases of a line 6. So line 6 is very famous in human design for moving through 3 distinct phases. The phase 1 is the trial and error, the birth of the Saturn return. So in the early part of life, line 6 functions a lot like line 3. So you can go and see that in another video. It learns through experience, through mistakes, through testing life, through relationship that teaches lessons, and through environments that show what doesn't work. So this stage can feel very intense because the role model isn't born above it, it's born into it. And a key lesson of phase 1 is reality training. So the phase 2 is the observation and integration. Saturn return to Chiron returns. After the Saturn returns, something shifts. So line 6 often becomes way more selective, more private, more observant, and it steps back from chaos and starts to integrate what it has learned. So this is where the role model starts forming internally. And it can feel like, I don't want drama anymore. I'm not interested in repeating those lessons, been there, done that. I want what's real. I want what's stable. I'm watching patterns before I participate. And during this phase, the wisdom is building quietly and not always visible to other people yet. Phase 3 is the embodied role model. So after the Chiron return. So after the Chiron returns, line 6 begin to step forward differently. Not as someone trying to prove anything, and not as somebody who's trying to experiment wildly, but as someone who has lived enough to embody their own knowing. This is where the role model becomes what it was designed to be, an example. Maybe not a perfect example, but a real one. So the kind of person where others can say, I trust you because you lived it. A true gift of a line 6 is that the gift is credibility through the embodiment. Line 6 is not here to be inspirational because it sounds good. It's here to be influential because it's true. So when 6 aligns, it naturally shows others that this is what works, this is what holds water, and this is what can be trusted. This is what's not worth repeating. So line 6 is a line that carries a long-term perspective. and the shadow side of a line 6. We have shadow sides, the sunny side, and the gift side, sunny and gifted side. So the shadow can show up when line 6 tries to skip a process. It can become overly judgmental of itself and also on others. It can withdraw too much to never re-engage again. It can become very disillusionist, like nothing can be trusted, especially after repeating early life lessons. And one very important point, line 6 does not do well with hypocrisy. So because it's designed to become an example, so the internal pressure is very strong. Don't say it if you can't live it, right? So if a line 6 is living out of alignment, it can feel internally painful, like a split between what it knows and what it's doing. So how can you work with your line 6 correctly? And if you carry the line 6 energy, these are the keys. Respect timing. Your life is developmental. Let phase 1 teach you. Don't shame it. Let phase 2 refine you. Don't isolate forever. And let phase 3 be embodied. Don't force perfection. Your wisdom becomes your influence, but remember, it's built over time. So to just sum this up in a one sentence, you can see the line 6 is the role model, an observer who matures through 3 phases, transform life experience into wisdom, and becomes influential by embodying what can truly be trusted. It is the roof of our house in human design, what it is and when it happened. So to add something to this, in human design, the roof has a very has a way of describing a very specific developmental rhythm that belongs to the 6th line of beings. So if you have 6 in your line, 6, 2, 4, 6, you know, it's not mood and it's not personality choices. Remember, it's life cycle timing. So 6th line moves through the 3 phases that I said, and the roof is the middle phase. So that's the phase where life naturally will pull you back into observation, integration, and perspective before you re-enter the world in a different way. So when we speak about going onto the roof, it has to do with Saturn return. The shift onto the roof is linked to the first Saturn return, which happens around the age 28 to 30, and the exact timing depends on your natal Saturn degree and transits. So this is often the point where a 6th line person feels a deep internal change, like life can't be chaotic anymore. I can't keep experimenting in the same way that you have done. Maybe you need to step back and watch what is actually true here. So in this phase, the 6th line becomes way more selective, more careful, more reflective, and there's often a very strong, well, I'm done being available for everything feeling, and good for you. And that makes sense because the roof phase isn't about being social or proving yourself. It's about integrating everything you have learned so far in the first part of your life so wisdom can mature inside of you. So the life on the roof of our human design housing is the observation and the integration. So from Saturn return until the next big marker, the 6th line tends to be in an observational chapter. And like we say, it can just be you pulling away from drama. You don't want a lot of people there. Perhaps you just want fewer quality relationships. You'll become more private. Maybe you feel older as you age, need time to process. So what you lived and then go mature. So this is where the role model is being built quietly and internally inside. So when you're coming off the roof, it's Chiron return. So the coming down from the roof, metaphorically, right? The timing is connected to the Chiron returns, which happens around the age of 50, 51. Again, you can find the exact timing depending on your natal Chiron. So this matters because people sometimes mix it up and think maybe it's Saturn, even at 50, but it isn't. Saturn returns, Saturn's return, second return is later. So it's usually first around the 58 to 60 years. So Chiron is the marker that lines up the 6 lines of the roof face. So the point where you're ready to re-enter life as you, not as an experiment and not as an observer hiding behind distance. You have done that. So what off the roof can feel like? Well, it often feels like a natural return to the participation, but with a completely different frequency. So the difference is before you entered life, you find out what works. Now you enter life because you know what works for you. A lot of 6-line people describe this chapter as more grounded, more clear, more boundaries, more embodied as well. So less interested in proving anything to anybody and more interested in being an example through the truth that you have lived. And this is why the 6th line is called role model. Not because, again, not to be perfect, but because it's real. You did this in real life. So how to know your exact timing? Well, the exact roof timeline, it isn't a guess. It can be tracked precisely by looking at the degrees in your natal chart and watching when transiting Saturn returns to your natal Saturn, and then when transiting Chiron returns to your natal Chiron. That's why 6-line people can both be around 50 and still experience the shift and slightly, different times, because it will be a little different due to the changes. So to sum it up, well, the 6th line goes onto the roof at the first Saturn return around the age 28 to 30, lives a long phase of observation and integration, and comes off the roof at the Chiron return around 50 to 51 years of age, returning to life with the embodied vision and the role model energy. And good for you. If this was valuable content, consider dropping my page a follow.